Hello and welcome to another jungle video, and in this one we're gonna have a look at how you can become a better carry jungler by being a patient jungler. Because guess what, the world is rarely as you actually want it to be, and sometimes the early game plan doesn't go very well, or perhaps you're playing a more scaling style jungler and the enemy has picked some kind of Sinner jungler, or perhaps even a Graves, playing something meta, and you won't be allowed to exert an aggressive playstyle, and thus you have to take the information that's given to you and adapt and make the right plays that you actually gain a lead, even if the first 4 or 5 minutes might seem a little ominous. This of course works with any jungler that might actually scale but not have the best early game, but I'm specifically showing you Ekko because I feel like people are forgetting the ability of this champion to totally 1v5 whenever you turn on. And of course, as a jungler, we always want to engage and turn on as soon as possible without needing an OnlyFans. After all, we don't have time to browse Twitter all game because we're not top laners. So as always, if you enjoy the content, please consider leaving a like and of course subscribing. Head to the Patreon as well as the Twitch stream and secondary channel for even more jungling content. And now without hesitation, let's begin. So as we head into the game, you will see the runes show up. Nice of Ekko to of course have Ravenous Hunter, that healing rune is very strong still. And a few of you may have already seen that they are planning on nerfing Relentless Hunter. So while everyone around you gets slower, you as I say Stain enthusiast will continue to not die, and if you're Ekko of course that's amplified tenfold. I'm also very sure you enjoyed that mini slap fight between Graves and Ekko. Not quite the alpha battle you'd expect between two Korean challenger players, but the result for the Ekko is the same. Go back to base, leave that control ward on the blue, and head to your red. Now again, if you are a farming jungler or a more passive early game jungler, that is the best way to protect yourself against those level 2 blue buff invades. And the reason is because you want to see if they're on it, you can of course audible and head to their blue. You can adjust your game plan and path accordingly. And right on cue, or should I say E, Graves does his red buff first and then heads for that blue. I don't know, Graves plays invading level 2 blue is just sociological cliche at this point. But then again, that's why they play Graves, they don't want to have to think too much. And you will notice that yes, even at the highest tiers of play, a first clear can go badly. Ekko wanted to kite out the raptors, drag them, let the talisman passive kill the babies, so that he could actually go and fight the Graves over the blue. Unfortunately, it resets, and of course that camp being the second one you take, it's very important that it is taken off the map, so that when it respawns you get that elevated level 4 experience. But of course at this point the Graves has had time to complete the blue buff, and now the invade is basically completed. Now obviously you'd want to perhaps just go and counter invade and take his blue, his grump, into a vertical jungling situation, but the problem is because the enemy bottom lane has prio, if they leave the lane or have warded, even if you have the scanner, they see you, you are suddenly pushed off and you lose your whole blue side. This vertical jungling play only works if your bottom lane has prio of their own. And while Ekko will do his wolves, I want to show you why junglers hate laners. The Akali leaves her lane, roams up and wards the red buff, despite the fact that the Graves had shown on a ward that the Ekko placed on the blue with the red buff and 4 CS. And this is in high elo Korea. That kind of lack of awareness is kind of surprising. Now as Ekko and Graves kind of battle over the Grump, the Renekton is really destroying the Rengar, and so Graves helps him by wave clearing a little bit on the top lane. That gives him prio on level 3. Akali has made up for the roam and rotated, but there's nothing they can really do. The Ekko makes a bad decision because the Silas is also collapsing and has to burn his flash just to escape the communist chains of mages, and is now forced out of his jungle. You'll think, hey, he can go to the mid lane and take the wave. No. You don't want to upset your laner because she did rotate. However, I won't be averse to simply walking through mid and juicing some of that experience for yourself. Like in life, a good early game or a good breakfast is always what we need. So what the Ekko did is, because he cut off the Graves and had a little bit of prio on the experience, yeah, he loses his blue, but he doesn't lose anything else other than that top crab, which he was never gonna get because of the top laner. Denying the Graves here while advancing your own camp sequencing is actually the best play because he's being patient. He's not looking to basically turbo scale at this point. He's just looking to get as much experience, deny the Graves an aggressive play as much as possible, get that bottom crab, and then try and steal that blue back. And the reason now that he can go for this play is because his bot lane has prio. And if they didn't, well, he could do the crab and then translate that into a very nice gank on the bottom lane. So either way, he set himself up for success. He outsmites the Graves, goes for a gank on the bottom lane, does a nice E1 into Q into E2 to maximize the damage in a short amount of time. His support dies, Graves rotates after taking the juicy grump. They chase him down the bottom lane, and of course Ekko does what he does best. Throw backwards W and turn the play for another kill. The Graves should have expected this, it's overgreed at this point, which is no doubt frustration at not only not getting a kill, but also not having the camp experience lead over the Ekko. And of course being outsmited, no jungler likes being outsmited. Now from here you can simply go back to base and enjoy your gold and be very happy. At the same time, when the Graves respawns, he's most likely going to go to the top side. He definitely hasn't done a full clear, he needs to get those level 1 camps off the map, as well as take the level 2 raptors. That means you want to head in that direction to prevent counter jungling of your blue side again, because if he starts to rinse your blue side as well as his jungle camps, you're going to fall behind. So our Ekko eats the level 1 Krugs, holds the mid lane like a good citizen of the Republic, takes the level 2 raptor camp, and then sneakily takes his wolves while kiting down. You know that Renekton is destroying your top laner. You know that Graves is expected to counter jungle you yet again. And even better, after that, look for a dive. It is 100% the most logical play for the Graves, given his start was significantly stifled by the Ekko. Go back to base. Now you could argue you should buy a Dark Seal here. However, a completed Runic Echoes at just over 6 minutes is a really good buy. That makes your wave clear, your farming, everything so much stronger. And again, by taking the wolves on that one rotation, by staying out a little bit longer, you deny the counter jungling to the Graves, who is now forced into a bit of a desperation play onto the Rengar. Beautiful decision making, excellent pathing awareness, straight to the top lane, counter gank on the Renekton, waits for the E over the wall, smite the Graves, close your E, throw your Q, auto in between, and that's a dead Graves. All of it through patience, all of it through good warding, even though he doesn't have the best of the matchup early, even though he messed up his Raptor clear, even though his Akali didn't know what day it was. He played around what the map gave him, the jungle flow. We made a video about this with Graves actually in April. This patient flowing jungling is one of the best carry things you can put into your kit because it applies to literally every jungling playstyle and also allows you to come back when you are actually losing games, or if your laners aren't exactly sentient. Now process the information given to you on the map. Graves is dead, there's that nice ward on his Grump which will give you further information, and you have to ask yourself, what can I do very freely now that the enemy jungler isn't on the field? Well, enjoy yourself a baby crab starter. Scuttle on the bottom side, RNG, thank you very much. If Graves shows on the Grump, you could perhaps look to collapse onto him with the Leona, maybe take a kill. Otherwise, simply count on jungle. You could also gank the bottom side, and if mid is open for a gank, you can do that as well. Now, it's worth noting that on the minimap, when Ekko went to the bottom side, excellent warding by the Sylas, they saw his pathing, so as he trades with Akali, he heads up towards his Graves, which gives Ekko all the information he needs. Graves' red has spawned, as has the Ekko's. He knows his blue is also up, the Sylas went topside, and Graves didn't show on the Grump. That means by process of elimination, Graves is taking his red. So if you are Ekko and you've been counter jungled a little bit in these early games, even if you're behind, the ability to take control of your own camps is tantamount to actually winning the game. And again, now you have to decide, there's no Grump, no wolves. Top is gankable. Maybe Graves wants to do red into Krugs into a top lane gank. Maybe another dive, so the Ekko anticipates this, but then the Graves shows on the Grump, so he adjusts his pathing. Again, you've got Dragon up, your whole red side, second red buff. Graves is on the bottom side, you have a lead. Top lane is lost. You would lose a lot of momentum by ganking top lane here, not being able to turn it into a kill, and perhaps losing a bottom lane dive, a dragon, and all your camps. So by seeing the Graves on the Grump, you know, let me head to my red. Now ideally, I would anticipate a gank and a dive here. I would simply do the red and then head to set up a counter gank. Considering the Graves very clearly did a top to bottom sequence, there's not much else you can do on the map, and so being in position to capitalize and protect your bottom lane is the better play. But as is always the way in high elo career, quickly rotate, clean up the kills, very nicely done. It would have been way worse if he actually sat around to finish the red buff, and at least in this case he's taking his Raptors, he'll have the red and the Krugs after getting a nice double on the bottom side, even though the Sylas TP'd and killed him and stole his ultimate. Again, these are the kind of things you want to try and anticipate in your lower elo games so that the enemy jungler doesn't get anything at all. But nonetheless, a good play by Graves, better play by Ekko, and a nice TP by the Sylas. Because Graves died and shut up on the bottom lane from a top to bottom sequence, when he respawns, most likely he's going to the top side to take the Herald as well as the Scuttle. This means our Ekko will take the red buff to help him in this endeavor and try and get that Scuttle before Graves does. As he paths very safely and well behind the mini wave, just pulling back so it doesn't get detected. You will see he's going for the Protobelt build. A lot of you know I am not the best fan of it, however the conjunction of the active, the CDR, the HP, the affordability, the extra gap close you can add into your combos, it's very good against mobile teams, and also those with CC and Burst. At this stage, the Rengar's been beaten very nicely, the Renekton will roam down to help the Graves with the Herald, the Ekko can really do nothing about that, so this is the time, it's a little bit cool, he can take his Grump, his Wolves, he goes down to his Raptors again, the Sylas cuts him off telling him, hey, there's vision, I don't have mid prio. And instead now he reverses and heads to the top side. This is because you don't exactly know where the Graves is, there's nothing much else you can do on the bottom side of the map at this time. Also, the Renekton is almost about to take the first tower on the top side, and that would elevate the game state and force him to start roaming and getting in other lanes. As Ekko, we don't really want that. The only thing that Rengar's done well this game is hit that root, Ekko follows up, and down goes the R5 Renekton. Now at this point he must really head back to base quickly because by showing top lane to defend this, it gives the red team the ability to actually take this dragon, and you can see from the Graves' pathing that's what he wants to accomplish. and it also gives the red team the numbers advantage in a fight. And because most of the gold of the blue team is on the Ekko, you actually want to be present for this and be the carry potential. This is what you are. You wanted to carry the game. You ignored objectives, you played the enemy jungler, you impacted lanes a little bit, but mostly focused on camp sequencing, denying him, helping out lanes where you could, and getting yourself as big as possible. And with junglers like Ekko, sometimes I see in lower elos, people don't recognize when they've actually turned on. It's like they're patiently waiting, but they don't know for what. Whereas in high elo, of course, they know exactly when they have a huge lead, and they're able to use it. Even though the red team gets 2 kills, Ekko goes in, gets a bunch of damage. The Rengar does an amazing TP, the Ashe hasn't noticed because she's farming, because she's an ADC, but she ends up rotating, the Ekko gets back into the fight, and basically the numbers advantage, the damage, and the power of that fresh true damage merch allows them to demolish the enemy team, and finally someone takes a dragon. Is this season 3 or season 10? Now obviously Renekton is taking the top lane tower and is pushing the top side, except because by saving the top lane tower, by giving Rengar a TP advantage, through stopping his ganks, through stopping the dives, the game state was elevated with a nice fight and a dragon secure on the terms of the Ekko, not of the red team and the Renekton. Excellent pathing, excellent reads, and now it's on the Ekko to actually neutralize any advantages that are on the map, try and get more objectives, get any sort of pickoffs that he can, and start to push the vision and the map control towards the red nexus. Because some of you forget that, yeah, we have to get the nexus, which, means we have to kill towers, not just champions. To do that, we must first exert dominance. The Ekko clears his camps, makes sure to reset those. You've been neglecting the farm a little bit. Sylas with a blonde haircut, which is weird enough, gets targeted by the tower, I can only assume because of their haircut. Ekko finishes him off, then Graves shows up in his Crime City skin, very confused because he used to be called Mafia Graves. Ekko's 2 levels up, chases him down, kills him, flash under the tower, ult back to safety. Go back to base, get an Amp Tome and a Sheen. You see Renekton on the top side again, applying pressure. Rotate up, begin a fight with him. Don't take the plant, just simply E away, bait him into taking it, and then combine it with Protobelt to go over the wall and finish him off. That's the Tilta. Akali is roaming bottom lane, so you continue to shove mid lane. We're not looking to farm, we need to take towers, we need to set up Dragon Prior, we need to try and get heralds. Graves shows up trying to defend it, you throw a Q, and when he walks into it, you're kind of confused, but you say, okay. You are on top of him and, he dies. I think their morale's a little low, I'm not sure. But this is, if you are the Ekko, how you actually use your patience to take over a game. You've seen it now. You are quintessentially the carry of the game. Everyone's fighting and trying to push towers on their own, so you take the mid tower, you take the crab, you take the Sylas, you reset back to base, you do a little bit of farming, you finally have the Lich Bane completed, you get a Dark Seal, there's a fight brewing on the bottom side for the second dragon, although I'm not sure we call it a fight, more like, Ekko shows up and kills everyone, and then the dragon just says, take me. Now at this point, because you have numbers advantages, you're looking to take over that blue side jungle, shove the bottom wave, make any picks you can, try not to overcommit, but of course it's solo queue, people are tilted, you're having fun. Things can happen, but ideally you take the tower and reset. Now from a macro perspective at this point, you want to head topside, take your blue camp, set up vision control around the Baron, make sure you can pressure both the top tower and the mid tower. Hopefully people aren't throwing by overcommitting on the bottom side, but why do that when you can simply kill the Ezreal and then they FF? Not exactly the most fun and engaging end to the game, it would have been nice to look at some macro, but that's not really the point because the point of jungling is to get to this 20-minute mark in the position this Ekko's in by making sure you have a lead, your team has a lead, and you're primed to have an easy decision-making process to close the game out. And I will link below in the descriptions videos that are relevant to that point. However, I hope you enjoyed and learned something from this video. Please do like, share, and comment if you did. Don't forget to head to the Twitch stream, the secondary coaching channel, and maybe even the Patreon to support the content further. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, I will see you all in the next tutorial, or Valhalla.